The darkness of the night had set in, and a cold wind was blowing outside, but inside Walmart, the dazzling Christmas decorations and the bustle of customers kept the atmosphere warm. I, Jessica, a 21-year-old college student, was working my night shift to save up some money for my tuition. My shift ended at 11 p.m., and I enjoyed the solitude of the late hours when it was just me, the security guard, and a few other staff members in the store, giving me the freedom to do my work. I was organizing the perfume and makeup shelves in aisle 8 when I heard loud laughter and shuffling footsteps behind me. I looked up to see 3 young guys coming toward me, their walk making it clear they were intoxicated. Their clothes were disheveled, and there was a strange glint in their eyes. I ignored them and got back to my work. As they passed by, one of them, a blond guy with a beard, suddenly looked at me and nudged his friend with a weird laugh. I took a deep breath and kept my focus on my work. But their joking and weird looks started to bother me. A little while later, they came back to my aisle. This time, they came even closer. One of them, the tallest, pulled a small bottle from his pocket and said, "Want to drink this with us, Jessica?" There was a mocking tone in his voice. I ignored him. "Hey, I'm talking to you," he said in a loud voice. Without looking at him, I replied, "I'm working right now." Their behavior grew more aggressive. "This girl's working alone," the blond guy said loudly. "This is getting interesting." I saw a new kind of glint in their eyes that scared me. I immediately pulled out my walkie-talkie from my pocket and pushed the button to call the manager, Mike. "Mike, I need some help in aisle 8. My voice was trembling. When the guys heard this, they looked at each other, smirked, and quickly left. When Mike arrived, I told him everything. He took a deep breath and shrugged his shoulders. "Jessica, they were just some kids messing around. Don't worry, I saw them on the CCTV. They're gone now." I insisted, "No, Mike, their behavior was really strange. I think they'll come back." But he brushed me off. "Go organize the shelves in aisle 6, he said, and walked away. The next night, I was pretty anxious. There was a strange fear in my heart. I was arranging the shelves in aisle 6 when I felt someone's presence behind me. I turned around to see those 3 guys had returned. This time, there was a new glint in their eyes, a dark, wicked glint. There was a cold smirk on their lips. They came close to me, and one of them, the one wearing a red hoodie, said, "No, Mike's coming to save you tonight. We checked your shift time." His voice was so quiet, it only increased the fear in my heart. I ignored them, but they got closer, and their behavior got worse. "We found her alone tonight," the blond guy said to his friend. "Tonight we're going to give her a Christmas gift she'll remember forever." My hands started to shake, and I tried to call my boss. I quickly pulled out my phone, but before I could dial, the guy in the red hoodie snatched it from my hand. "You can't call anyone, Jessica." My heart started pounding faster. They formed a circle around me and pushed me against the wall. I felt like something bad was about to happen, something really bad. My mind went blank, and I just stared into their eyes, which were devoid of fear and filled with hate. But they didn't do anything to me. They just looked at me and laughed, a strange glint in their eyes. "We're leaving you here, but we'll remind you for the rest of your life what we could have done to you," one of them said. Then he whispered in my ear, "We'll be watching you." His voice was so terrifying that a shiver ran through my entire body. They left, and I immediately called 911. The police came, and I told them everything, but I didn't have their names. They were also not visible on the CCTV. I again told Mike on the walkie-talkie. He just shook his head and left. After that night, I quit that job. I still feel like those three guys are watching me. Whenever I pass by a Walmart, that fear comes back. The fear that they are following me. It's a fear I'll always remember. The fear that has never let me be alone. That evening, my 6-year-old daughter, Layla, and I headed to Walmart. My wife, Sarah, was held up at work, and we were in desperate need of some groceries for the house. Layla was always so into shopping. She saw it as an adventure. She was always pumped to see something new. We started in the produce section. I asked her to help me pick out the red and yellow tomatoes and the big fat onions. She was so happy, carrying a small basket and walking right by my side. Her eyes would light up with every new thing she saw. I was telling her the names of different fruits and veggies, and she was laughing and mimicking me. We had a great time together, just like a typical dad and his daughter. When we got to the dairy aisle, I told Layla to pick out her favorite yogurt while I grabbed the milk. The milk section was a little tucked away in the corner, and I told her I'd be right back. I grabbed the milk and came back, but there was no yogurt in my basket. I looked around, and Layla wasn't there. For a second, my heart jumped, but I figured she must be nearby. I called out her name a couple of times. "Layla, Layla!" But there was no answer. My heart started to race, and I looked everywhere. People were just doing their usual shopping. No one had seen my daughter. I quickly started searching for her in the dairy section. I was sure she was just out of my line of sight. I looked down every aisle, but she was nowhere to be seen. A wave of fear washed over me, a cold feeling that spread through my entire body. I raised my voice. "Has anyone seen a little girl? She's wearing a pink jacket." A woman glanced at me, then went back to her shopping. No one helped me. Everything was just business as usual. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I immediately tried to call the store manager. I knew his number. As I was dialing, my eyes landed on a man holding a little girl's hand heading to the far corner of the store. The little girl was wearing a pink jacket, and it was my Layla. She wasn't looking at me. She was focused on something else. My phone slipped from my hand, and I bolted towards them. My breath was ragged, and my heart was pounding. There was only one thought in my head: I have to stop him. I yelled, "Where do you think you're going? That's my daughter." The man turned to face me. He looked to be in his 50s, wearing old jeans and a plain t-shirt. There was no emotion in his eyes. He said, "I was taking the child to her father." I said, "I am her father. Who are you?" He was silent for a moment, then said, "I know you're her father." With that, he let go of Layla's hand and said, "Layla, your dad's here." Layla saw me and ran straight into my arms. In her hand was a small doll she had picked up from the toy section. I hugged her tightly, and she started to cry. I asked her, "Where were you, sweetie?" She said, "I thought you left me. I went to the toy section. This uncle told me you were looking for me and that he was taking me to you." I looked at the man, but he wasn't there. He had disappeared. I couldn't wrap my head around what had happened. I picked up Layla and walked her home. On the way, I realized how strange the man's words were. He hadn't said that he knew me. He said that he knew I was Layla's father. When I got home, I told my wife Sarah everything. She was terrified too. We called the police and told them everything. The police said they'd look for the man, but they never found a single trace of him. I still remember the moment that man said, "I know you're her father." Those words keep echoing in my mind. I don't know who he was or what he was going to do with my daughter. I just know what could have happened if I hadn't seen him. Even today, when I go to Walmart, a strange fear takes hold of my heart. I feel like that man is somewhere out there and he's watching me. This all happened about 4 weeks ago. My friend John gave me a weird challenge at Walmart. It was around 9 p.m. and the store was pretty empty. He suddenly said to me, "We have to stay inside Walmart for an hour, and we can't let anyone know we know each other. Whoever gets caught first loses." I thought it was silly, but I agreed. We took separate paths. I turned off my phone's light, put it in my pocket, and went to the produce section. I was wandering through different aisles. At one point, I felt like someone was following me. I turned around, but I didn't see anyone. Still, a strange feeling of unease hung in the air. I couldn't see John because he was keeping a distance of about 100 feet. I headed toward the toilet paper aisle. There was a guy there who seemed odd to me. He kept pulling something out of his bag and putting it back. He wasn't standing still. He kept swaying back and forth. I ignored him and kept moving. When I reached the dishes section, I saw a girl. She looked to be about 25 or 26. She had a phone in her hand and was talking to someone in a low voice. Suddenly, she stopped, looked at me in a strange way, and smiled. Her smile was completely emotionless. I quickly looked away and hurried on. Time was passing, and I was trying to hide in different sections. I got close to the books aisle and felt someone approaching. I turned around and saw the same guy from the toilet paper section. He looked at me with no expression on his face. He passed by without saying a word. I was getting a little freaked out and started looking for John. I called him, but he didn't answer. I got even more anxious. I saw the girl from the dishes section was now heading toward the checkout counter. She kept looking back at me, as if she knew me. I started to feel like these people were watching me. I realized this wasn't just a coincidence. I went into an empty aisle and hid in a corner. I could hear the same quiet sounds I had noticed earlier. I was starting to get scared because I was alone and had no idea where John was. Just then, I got a text message on my phone. It was from John. He wrote, "Come outside fast. Something's not right here." I texted him back, "Where are you?" But he didn't reply. My anxiety went through the roof. I sprinted toward the Walmart exit. When I got close to the door, both the guy and the girl were standing right there. They smiled at me and quickly walked out. I got outside and saw there was another guy with them, sitting in a Walmart cart. They were pushing the cart and laughing out loud. All of them had a small device in their hands, on which I saw a strange symbol. My jaw dropped. John was standing there too. I asked, "What is this?" John laughed and replied, "We were just pranking you. You thought someone was following you, right?" I got furious. I told him this wasn't a joke. I asked him what that device was and why they were laughing. He replied, "It gets pretty boring in Walmart. We decided to create a little drama." I left John there and went to my car. I felt like John's joke had gone too far, to the point of being scary. I knew there was more to this story. When I got home, I got another text message on my phone. It was just a game. We'll meet again next week. It was from that same unknown number that the girl had. I felt like it wasn't just a game. It was something else. It was 2 a.m. in the home goods and kitchen supply section of Walmart. Under the harsh fluorescent lights hanging from the high ceilings, I was rearranging every single item on the shelves. This was my first job after graduating from university, and I had deliberately chosen the night shifts to work peacefully, far from the daytime hustle and bustle. The atmosphere here always felt calm to me. In the dead of night, the only sounds were the light hum of the refrigerators and the quiet rumble of my cart's wheels. I had been on this job for over 2 months. Tonight, I was working in the dishes section when I saw an old man. He looked to be in his 50s, his hair was gray and his shoulders were slightly stooped. He wore a simple blue windbreaker and khaki pants. He wasn't looking to buy anything. He was just standing there, staring at the dishes. I thought he might need help, so I walked over to him. "Can I help you with anything?" I asked. He came closer to me, a sad smile on his face. "How long have you been working here, son?" he asked. There was a strange softness in his voice that felt a little unnatural. "It's been about 2 months," I replied. He nodded and said, "I've been coming here for many years. This place has changed a lot, but some things haven't." Then he picked up a small white porcelain dish. "Are these really cheap?" he asked. "Yeah, they're a really good deal," I told him. He kept staring at the dish, as if lost in thought, then put it back and slowly walked away without a word. His behavior struck me as a little odd, but I didn't think much of it. A week later, I was in the cutlery section, organizing the knives, forks, and spoons, when I saw the same man again. He was looking at me from a distance with that same faint smile on his face. This time, he didn't say anything, just nodded and kept walking. In that moment, I felt that it wasn't just a coincidence. This continued for the next few nights. He would be there every night during my shift. Sometimes he would be standing by the home goods curtains, and other times in the drinks section. He never spoke to me, just watched me from a distance with that strange smile. I now had an eerie feeling that he was keeping an eye on my every move. One day, as I bent down to grab some items from a lower shelf, I felt like someone was watching me. I looked up and saw him staring at me from the corner of the aisle. The moment our eyes met, he immediately turned and walked away. His presence was starting to really get to me. One night when my shift ended and I was getting ready to go home, I saw the man near my car. He was standing behind my silver Honda Civic and was carefully looking at the car. His being there terrified me. I ignored him and took out my key. "I knew you'd be here tonight," he whispered. A cold shiver ran down my spine when I heard his voice. I quickly unlocked my car door and got inside. I looked through the window to see him leave. He gave another strange smile and then quickly walked away. I immediately started the car and left the parking lot. The next day when I started work, I was filled with fear. I saw the man everywhere, his mysterious smile and strange eyes. I talked to my boss, Bob, and told him everything. "He's an old regular. He's here every night. I've seen him many times. He doesn't have any money, he just hangs out here. He doesn't harm anyone, he's just a little weird. Don't pay any attention to him." Bob's words didn't comfort me at all. As I worked that night, I kept looking behind me, and then I saw him in the aisle. He was hidden in the corner, watching me. He made a slow gesture with his hand, as if he knew my next move. In that moment, I completely lost it. I quickly finished my work and started getting ready to go home. I couldn't stand to be in that store for another minute.
When I got home, it was quite late. When I reached my front door, I found a small cardboard box lying there. The box had my name and address written on it, and my heart started to race. I quickly opened the door and brought the box inside. When I opened it, I found a small kitchen knife and a few cutlery spoons and forks. The knife was exactly like the one I had seen at Walmart. I immediately started trembling. I thought of the man who had been standing by my car. He knew where I lived. He did all this to give me these things. I immediately called 911 and told him everything. The police officer listened to me, but said they couldn't do anything until there was a clear threat or a major crime. Maybe someone left it there by mistake, he said. The police's response only increased my fear. I felt completely alone, like no one could help me. I stayed awake all night, startling at every sound. I looked out the window every few minutes to see if that man was standing outside. I was convinced he was watching my every move. At the first ray of morning light, I quit my job. I knew that as long as I worked at Walmart, I would never be safe. What had started as a simple job had now become the biggest fear of my life.
It all happened last week. I got home after a long, tiring day. My throat was dry from work and I needed something to drink. I didn't have anything at home, so I had to go to Walmart. It was around 11 p.m. and I just wanted to grab something quick and head back. I walked into Walmart and noticed there were only a handful of people inside. A couple of families were doing some late-night shopping and a few solo folks like me probably coming home from work. I made a beeline for the drinks aisle, where they had all kinds of juices and sodas. I grabbed my favorite drink and headed to the checkout. In the checkout line, a man came and stood behind me. He struck me as odd, maybe because he was so quiet and his eyes were completely blank. He was wearing a hat and his face was mostly hidden. All he had in his hand was a single bottle of water. When it was my turn to check out, I scanned my stuff and paid. Just as I was putting my card back in my wallet and getting ready to leave, the man said, "Good choice." His voice was so low I could barely hear him. I just gave a quick smile and a nod and kept walking. I was walking toward my car. On my way, I glanced back and saw the man still standing at the checkout, his water bottle resting on the counter. I couldn't tell if he was waiting in line or what. I just kept walking, telling myself it was probably just my imagination. I got in my car and started the engine. When I looked in the rearview mirror, he was standing there. He'd come outside with his water bottle and was just watching my car. I immediately pulled out of the parking lot and left him behind. The next day, while I was at work, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, and a low voice said, "That drink you bought last night, it was a good one." I couldn't believe it. I hung up immediately. That evening, when I got home, I noticed a car in my parking lot that I'd never seen before. It was parked right behind mine. As I took out my key and was about to go inside, I saw a note on my windshield. It just had one sentence on it: "Nice house. I live nearby." My hands started to shake, and I quickly spun around to look at the car. It was empty. I rushed inside my house and locked the door. My mind was reeling. I remembered the man at Walmart and the phone call. All of this was starting to feel terrifying. I couldn't sleep that night. I stayed up looking out the window, wondering if the man was out there somewhere. In the morning when I woke up, I looked out at the street. The same car was still there. I spent almost half an hour watching it from my window. Finally, I decided to call the police, but then I thought, what would I even tell them? A man at Walmart said my drink was a good choice, and now he's parked behind my car? I didn't leave the house for 2 days. I only ordered food through delivery services. During that time, I heard footsteps outside my door and got several calls from unknown numbers. Each time I answered, there was only silence. On the third day, I saw that the car was gone. I felt a wave of relief. But that evening, when I got home and was parking my car, I found another note on my windshield. This time, it just had an address. I immediately put it into Google Maps, and the address was for a house at the end of my street. I nervously looked at a picture of the house. It was an old, abandoned place. I started to tremble and told myself, he's watching me. And right then, I got another text message on my phone. Why did you turn off the lights last night? It came from that same unknown number. I threw my phone on the ground and screamed.